Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I am Rick Weaver, your host. I am joined tonight, as always, by Blake Duckworth, my co-host. Tonight we have a very special guest on, uh, Mr. Scott Martin of the Paranormal Awakening podcast. Uh, Scott's a young man that has been in the doing the paranormal research. I think he said for 4 years. Been into Bigfoot research for the last 2 years. Without any further ado, I'm gonna let Blake open the show, and then we'll bring Scott on.
I hope everyone is doing okay. As always, guys, thank you for your support. And if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and a comment. Um, like Ricky said, Scott is seems to be a really good guy. Um, Fairly new to the paranormal world, but I'm sure he's got some good stories to share with us. And that's all, Ricky.
All right. Without any further ado, let's bring Mr. Scott on.
Hey guys,
Scott, how
how's it
you doing,
going?
buddy?
Doing amazing, and amazing to be here.
All right, Scott, just go ahead and explain to our viewers basically what got you into the paranormal and what
Kind of just who
what
you
you
are.
Alright,
actually
so
do.
alright, so it was maybe 3 years ago. I started watching this show on YouTube called Scientific Researchers of the Unknown, and they kind of got me into the paranormal world. I was first a viewer before I became a part of their group, and then I later on decided to open up my own show. But before all that, I became friends with a few people, and I started to learn more about cryptids, Bigfoot, and UFOs. And well, I already knew about UFOs and the existence of UFOs, but I mainly have done ghost research for 4 years, as well as UFOs, and then Bigfoot research for 2 years, as you said in the intro. And it's just one thing that really shocks me when you dive into this world of paranormal phenomenon. And honestly, it's just crazy. And and when I was going on my first investigation, I had the chills, but like someone was watching me, and there's this light post, and the local Maidu Indians overtook our area. Well, they've had our area, and then they passed on. So when me and my friend, we were about like 13, 14 years old, we biked down to this area, and when I would ask this light post a question, the energy that I would receive from it was crazy. And you know, light posts just don't respond to like a yes or no question, and the energy that we got worked every time. And a few years later come by, and we that's when I met the investigation team, and we investigated that specific light post, which is by my local school. And man, it just shocked me. Like, one of our viewers commented saying there's a shadow figure, and we looked at it, we analyzed the footage, and sure enough, you can see a clear ghost girl of some sort. So it was, I don't know, that was just one of the first of many experiences I've had.
Okay, Scott. What about the Bigfoot aspects of the paranormal? Have you what what's your investigations been like on that front?
So for Bigfoot, 2 years later from that, or a year later, I think, before that investigation, wait, no, after that investigation, I became friends with Jesus Pine Jr. from Breaking Bigfoot on YouTube. And, you know, I was walking along my neighborhood, and I went into a trail, like a fire trail, I think it's called. And when it was around midnight, and I heard a growl or like a grunt noise of some sort, and I saw like a 6 foot tall, like a shaggy character, kind of like a Chewbacca, And when I saw it, we just kind of locked eyes, and I'm like, "Yo, what did I just see?" And then it started chasing me out of there, and it was around midnight, and I remember I ran back to talk to my parents, and I told them what I saw, but yet they didn't believe me because, parents from my time definitely have different thoughts on the paranormal world versus those of us that do love the paranormal world, and, it just, that's what dug me into doing my Bigfoot research, and since then I've had maybe 4 or 5 encounters, and it's been one heck of a trip. But that was one of my first Bigfoot encounters, though.
Okay, as far as the paranormal research and the Bigfoot research, you said you were from Sacramento, California. Is that where you basically do all your research at?
No, sir. I do. Well, I have a little foresty neighborhood area, and so it is a little bit foresty in my area. So that's where my first encounter was, which was literally like a few minutes down from my house. But my second one was in Donner Lake. Yeah, Donner Lake, and about 2 miles up from the water, I could see an X mark, like an X mark structure with 2 big giant pieces of wood, and I can send you my photos I have of what I captured, and you can see the X mark, the river, and then there's a Bigfoot right next to a rock. And when I saw that, it made me believe it even more, and that's what I'm also trying to progress and study, is why are these structures here. And that's also one thing that I'm wanting to kind of do more in my future research. But that was one of my second research. That was one of my second research encounters that I've had, and that was in Donner Lake, California.
Right. Now you're talking about the structures now. Or go ahead, Blake.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Okay, you're talking about the structures and all, Scott. A lot of researchers, they get out and do this on a daily basis. They feel that the structures that Sasquatch leave behind are maybe ancient language, and that is something that I've been doing a lot of field research on. Blake has been a good friend of ours from out in Colorado. He does a lot of extensive research on the structures and all, and each structure to me has a meaning to the Sasquatch people.
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely have heard of that, and I've also heard that it also is a territorial thing. And I do want to dive into my third encounter, I think, which is not really an encounter of Bigfoot like my first 2 encounters were, but my third encounter on season 1, episode 3 of my show. You can see the X mark footage and all that, and what I captured. But when I was standing right next, so my body was perfect. I was in perfect shape, and that day, when I filmed the X mark, I don't know if I got zapped or what just happened, but like when I filmed that, my whole entire upper body was just completely dead. Like I could still move my feet, I could still walk, but my upper body was completely destroyed. I told a few of my friends, and 2 of them, I think 2 of them, or one of them told me that it was definitely them zapping me, which I didn't even know until then. That they do have those capabilities or did. And, I think it's one thing when we're around those structures that we got to be careful about what we enter through, because it can take you to a whole new world. And, you know, since that experience, I've been kind of more careful when I'm on my trails and when I'm doing my research, because I don't want to deal with that again, because from what I experienced with my upper body being literally destroyed was not fun. So I don't know if that's just a sign of me doing something wrong, but if anyone else did have that experience like I did, I do need some answers for that.
Now, got a question. Since you were kind of talking about that what just happened, what's your thoughts on? All right, so paranormal and Bigfoot. You know, a lot of people think that Bigfoot has these paranormal abilities and whatnot. What is your view on, like, I believe, just because of people that I've talked to, not personal experiences, people have weird things happen when they have Bigfoot encounters a lot of times. Whether if it be cloaking or, like your experience there being zapped, mind speak, I mean, all these other things, like, why do you think that is? And do you think it's just like my outlook on it? I think a lot of it's things we just don't understand, so therefore we call them paranormal.
Well,
they're still paranormal. I mean, that's what paranormal means, but.
Well, as far as why these things happen or why these occurrences happen, I think it's really like a message being sent to us. And of course, I've seen, on Google, that the FBI has investigated Bigfoot and, hair evidence and all that kind of stuff. But yet they try and hide the truth and try and hide the facts about Bigfoot. And honestly, I think when we ourselves as individuals go out into the field, we experience these things because I feel like they're trying to tell us a message. Because if I was living in the woods and if I was a Bigfoot, I would want people to know about my story. And speaking of my story, my buddy Breaking Bigfoot, he did some research on petroglyphs, and we've talked about that before. And back then they didn't have an iPhone, they couldn't Snapchat that or anything like that. And the stuff that he captured from his petroglyphs were impressive. Like, you could see full round discs of UFOs, big creatures like Bigfoot. And, it makes me realize that maybe these are messages to us, and that we have a reason. Each of us have a reason to do what we do. Like, Ricky Weaver has a reason why he's doing the podcast. And we all have a reason why we're here discussing this, is, to break down this huge pyramid from top to bottom. And honestly, I think it's a very important thing that all researchers should figure out the bottom line question, and that is what is the message that they're trying to send us. And that's one thing that I keep asking myself, and that's one thing I want to continue doing research on.
Pretty good answer.
Well, the whole thing comes down to the fact, boys, that the more I'm out in the field researching these creatures, it's more questions that I have.
Well, that's the thing. You always, and that's the problem. Even with when we're talking either paranormal, far as spirits or or Bigfoot. I mean, since we can't explain things with science when it comes to these fields, I mean, you're always going to be left with questions versus answers.
I like what you said exactly. And that's not just one topic that we're trying to figure out. Like,
we're talking UFOs, we're talking anything that is not explained by science.
I've had many UFO encounters, and I one of my questions I've asked myself was about Elon Musk, is he covering up, UFOs? Because about a few years ago, I was playing airsoft with some friends at night, and I tripped and fell, and then I looked up into the sky, and I see this big giant craft just flying along in the sky. But then yet, the news reports saying it was a missile by the United States. Then no one's going to launch a missile above a city where Americans are living and trying to live peacefully. That's a completely stupid thing to do. And so it's like questions like that is what we need to ask ourselves. Is like, where did these aliens come from, or what is the message that Bigfoot's trying to get into our heads? And I think that's one thing that we need to figure out. And not to get too far off topic, but as well as out of body experience and all that too. We got a lot of investigating to do for all topics.
Well, and all that has to do with our general lives. There's so much that we don't understand as humans. We only know what we're taught, and there are a lot of things about life and things in this universe and things that even live here on Earth, and whether it be afterlife, other dimensions, whatever. There are things that we cannot explain.
Definitely.
And so therefore, a lot of these things are in knowledge because of that.
Yeah, one of my one of the people who mainly taught me about Bigfoot, and the reason why I say mainly is because him and I talk probably I don't think there's a day when we have not talked. And his name is Alexander Owen Under the Veil on YouTube, and his captures are amazing. And so, from what I've learned from him, and as well as Colorado Bigfoot, those two guys, they've definitely touched my life on the world of paranormal phenomenon. And it's just so crazy seeing these structures and what they're capable of. And in a podcast with one of my other friends, we've talked about what other paranormal phenomenon could there be in this world, because only 1% of the entire ocean's been discovered, and there's 99% left.
Yep. What's out there that we have not discovered?
And there's things like USOs too, and it's like a whole new world for us to explore. And I think it's very interesting when we take that into encounter. And honestly, though, that one question still lies beneath me, and it's something that I want to really crack down, though, is where did they come from? Because even for Bigfoot, Bigfoot might not even have originated from Earth, or did he? But that's another question that we should ask ourselves: is if we're flying to another planet, we might see the same cryptids there as we do here. But then again, we can only know. We can only know so much what we've been told, like you said, and from our own independent research.
Of course. And we discover all the stuff, and it goes back to we just don't understand. We discover things all the time that we just don't have explanations for.
Oh, dude, definitely. Like, they discovered the giant squid, like, maybe... I don't want to get too far off topic, but the giant squid, I remember that I was like 9 years old, I think, when that was a thing, and when that was first discovered, and I think there was only one that's been discovered. So imagine what the entire ocean would be like. Maybe there's an entire city under the ocean that we don't know about, because we don't have the capability to go that far.
Talking about squids, I know this is going way off topic, but you bringing that up made me really think about this. I forgot who I was talking to. I was having a conversation with somebody one day, and he brought up giant squids like you did. And squids are very weird. We don't really know why they're the way they are. They don't really have a purpose. And if you think of an alien, what does a squid look like? Big head, long tentacles. I mean, it. I
mean, I want to. going back to aliens, I saw a picture on a Facebook group, and the question that was asked was, what if aliens are humans like us? And what would we do if we came across them? And I think that's a very interesting thing, because Hollywood filming E.T., the movie, and I think that there's a whole lot of
aliens
misconceptions. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's maybe some misconceptions, but as far as Bigfoot goes, he's the big old shaggy dude. Well, female or male, I should say that. But
there's a lot of people in our field that feel that Bigfoot actually has connections to aliens. What is your thoughts along those lines?
I was talking to, I think it was Jesus Pine Jr. in my friend's podcast on his show, and he did. I think it was him that was saying that there might be potential that Bigfoot does pilot UFOs, and I think, it is very possible that there might be like some sort of friendship between all cryptids, and we might not have that friendship, but the government itself might also have that friendship, because I'm not sure if these photos are photoshopped, but there's been like pictures of famous people with the aliens and stuff before, but I don't know if they're photoshopped or photo edited, because anyone can do anything nowadays with photos, which is why when you do your research, you have to be careful. And I mean be careful with the research that we're all doing, because there's a 4th of July. No. What is that thing called when it's like on the 1st of one of the months, and it's like a little stupid joke that you play around with people, and I'm blanking out on it. Yeah, April Fool's. So there's an April Fool's joke going around, still being posted in these Facebook groups, and I tell people all the time that's an April Fool's joke, because if you look up on their website, they're just trying to mess around with people, but some people don't look at the dates on that. But I'm not saying Bigfoot is fake. I'm not saying that, because he is real, because we've all had those experiences. For those of us that do experience that. But what I'm saying is when someone posts something, always research a date.
Take it with a grain of salt at first.
Exactly. I like how you said that.
Hoax nowadays.
I like how you said that.
Don't necessarily not believe it. Don't believe it. Don't just take it and look at it. Don't automatically just assume things.
And also, going off of what you were just saying about assuming things and all that stuff, I was super pumped for the UFO disclosures, and it really made me happy.
They just told us what we already knew, though.
Well, yeah, we all know that, but they're displaying the footage, but yet they're saying they're balloons and stuff, and I'm like, what? A balloon can't go 400 miles an hour? Like, but
the best one of them all was one of the first major media, Roswell. Talking about how they're saying that though they're the balloons or whatever. Same thing with Roswell. So you have, they report of a unidentified flying object crashed it was a couple of days. And all of a sudden they come back and say that it was a weather balloon.
Yeah,
how does it go from one thing, like weather balloon? First of all, you're not going to have a debris field from a weather balloon. But two, like, how much if your government cannot distinguish the difference between a weather balloon and a UFO, that should say a lot right there. I mean,
well, I kind of want to touch up on that. So, it was the Canadian government, whatever their prime minister is. They were he was mentioning something. You can literally look up on YouTube too of a news clip of this and he was interviewed by the news or something about aliens, and he talked about how there's different species too, and I'm like, what? And compared to our media, how it's super controlled, and I honestly don't think he really cared, and he wanted the world to know. And I think that's something that we also gotta do with our own research, is research from other countries too. Like, don't take our own country's research too. Like, you can Google Canadian Bigfoot research. There's a channel that I follow, and the girl's husband or significant other, they do Bigfoot research together, both in and up in Canada. And I think when we do research, it's not just us people in the United States that's doing this research. There's people in Netherlands I know that are doing research, and it's super awesome seeing the structures that they capture. And honestly, sometimes it makes me jealous. I mean, my structures here might be very small, or sometimes medium, but compared to the structures that my friends capture is just phenomenal. And like the world that we live in today, like I wish more people would pay attention to their surroundings. And I'm not just saying that because of theft or robbery. I'm saying that because of the paranormal phenomenon. And paranormal phenomenon is right seen with our two eyes. And Rick, I don't know if I told you this, but speaking of seeing paranormal phenomenon, about a few days ago, I was literally driving home from the gym, and I came across something running across the road, and me and this biker was in front of me. I didn't even know the guy, but we both saw this creature run across the road and disappear halfway through on the road. It literally disappeared. And I wish I had a dash cam, but I don't, because what I saw with my own eyes, and another person saw too, proves that there is definitely a phenomenon out there. And when I saw that, it made me realize that there's more to this world than we really know.
Oh, that's basically what it all comes down to, boys. Is the fact that there is more out there than we'll ever understand. I mean, we can do research.
That's my biggest arguing. Can't talk.
Neither can I feel you. I'm very tired.
You know what I'm saying? Factor to everything, life in general. I mean, it goes back to we're taught one thing, and that's all we know. You've got to look beyond that.
Yeah, I like what you said. We gotta look beyond what we're research. We all can't speak tonight. But like with any topic, it can be any topic, and I'm not gonna name those topics, but whatever you're researching, whether it's psychology or anything, it can be anything in the world. And when you're researching that, take your research to beyond and dive into the field. And this goes for Rick's viewers. And if you are listening to this and you're not a believer of the paranormal world, at least respect those that do this research, because we will respect you as normal human beings, because
you don't have to believe it, but don't discredit it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's my whole thing with so many things. Like, that not to cut you off there, but
it's all good.
Just like what I was talking about with the connection of paranormal and Bigfoot, like there are a lot of things I'm 100% on board with, but I'm not going to tell you what you experienced. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to listen. Most people just won't tell their stories. Same with everything else in the world that people experiences.
That's right. I'm not going to.
Things happen. We are just, if you're into some type of research or whatever, you don't have to agree with it, but you respect it.
Exactly. I like how you said that. And Rick, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say no. You don't want to. You know, people tell me things every day. You know, I believe everything that I'm told as far as Sasquatch, UFOs, paranormal's concerned. Um, I'm not going to say that I don't believe it. You know, there's times that I would question something that people tell me, but as far as what other people experience, you know, we're not in their shoes. You know, I listen to them, and then I go out and I try to debunk, you know, to find an obvious answer to what they're telling me. You
Yeah.
know, uh, I've had things happen uh, over the last 40 years that I've been doing this. I've had strange things happen, man, that you know, any common man would call you a liar if you told him what happened to you. But uh, it's amazing to me that as researchers, you know, people get out here and call themselves researchers, but yet they want to put down what everybody else has found. You know, I'm not about that. You know, if I've got a
I like
question,
how you said that.
right? If I've got a question, you know, uh, uh, on something that someone's found, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to research it till I find the answer for it.
I think that's something that is very important that, you know, all of us should take into account is when there is a person that's asking a question and, you know, uh, you might think that it isn't possible, but it could be possible. So, you know, we didn't know that these phones could exist. We didn't know that these could exist, or our computers, and they were accidentally built. The phone was literally accidentally built. You can look up the history of the phone, and it was accidentally built. And I'm assuming the same thing with paranormal phenomenon, that it definitely wasn't created by someone. It was there for a reason, and that we're here for a reason too, to explore that paranormal phenomenon.
You know, it's like Blake and I were in the cemetery in Bartow County a few months back, and we heard something down there that night that even until today I still can't explain what it was. Uh,
I have the chills from hearing that.
It's
I
something that I'm not on board with, but I don't know what else to other, like, okay. So what we experienced that night, I mean, like, we've heard all types of, or you know, multiple Bigfoot howls, and this is something I've never heard before. But what it was and what it sounds like is something that I'm not necessarily a believer in. I don't believe it. But what we heard is what people describe. And what we heard was what people describe as a dog man. I don't believe, like I said, I'm not really either or on the subject because I don't know how I feel about it. But just like that, you know, even though I experienced something, I don't know if that's exactly what it was. I just don't know what else to describe it as.
Oh yeah, so I do want to touch upon that. So my friend Carson from Srotu, the show that I was telling you guys about earlier, he was in Yosemite, and in the podcast with me and him, I asked him a few questions about what he's heard, and he said he heard howling, but he doesn't know if it could be people screaming or just doing stupid things, you know. And like I think that when we hear something, go in the direction that we hear. I'm not saying if it's safe, of course. Don't go into that direction alone because you can actually get hurt. And you know, my ex girlfriend, she told me the story about when her and her friend were walking on a trail and they heard something that sounded like little kids playing in a forest. And then they booked it out of there and they didn't want to go into the forest because you know they felt like a negative presence of danger. So it's like, you know, if you hear something, proceed it with caution, but of course, you know, as long as you have like a group with you, which I'm assuming you guys do, as well as, you know, the listeners, but always proceed your research with caution no matter what it is.
Well, it's like the old saying, curiosity killed the cat. I mean, as humans, we're very curious creatures or animals or whatever you want to call us, beings. Um, but yeah, you don't want to walk into something you're not prepared for.
Yeah. One question I did have for both of you guys, actually, instead of you guys asking questions for me, is what do you guys think about or know about, I guess, either or, for Bigfoot calls? And, like, do you guys do Bigfoot calls yourself, such as, wood knocks, or what's your intake on that?
Oh yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
I'll tell you a couple that Blake and I experienced up close and personal. Um,
Yeah, hang on,
one,
Ricky. He's pretty much telling both our stories on this because all of our experiences with calls and responses and everything have been together, so we can't really answer this independently because we were both there at the same time. But go ahead, Ricky.
okay. Uh, Blake's dad was used to be a big skeptic. Johnny, I love him to death. He's a great guy, but
Well, I
he
wouldn't
went
call him like he did not believe. He never had anything happen. So it's one of
well.
those things, kind of like
He
me,
he
me
can't he
myself,
can't say that anymore.
me myself. That's how I was, before I ever had anything happen. I did not believe in them. I did believe in them, but personally, I never had anything happen to me. So, you know,
Back in 2011, I had a few months prior to this, I'd had a heart attack, and I was recovering from it. Blake and his dad and I went down to the lake. We'd walked about a mile and a half from the truck over around this little cove area that came out of the main body of the lake. Uh, Standing there talking, it was actually where Blake had his personal sighting at down there. But we were standing there talking by these big rocks, and we started walking back down toward the edge of the water. And Blake told me, says, "Hey man, says do a howl." So I did, and honest to God, just as my howl ended, this thing right across the lake, right across this cove, about 60 yards from us, let out a yell identical to me, all except it was a lot, much more deeper. You could tell its lung capacity was a lot greater than what mine was. Uh, but so you talking about scaring us now? Now that one scared us to death. Uh, I look around. Blake and Johnny had run off and left me. When I get back to the truck about 10 minutes later, they're both sitting in the cab of the truck. Johnny rolls the window down, looks at me, says, "Hey man, I didn't have to outrun Bigfoot. All I had to do is outrun you." Me standing there heaving for breath, And then one night, a couple of months after that, we were down there in Johnny's boat, and we had pulled into this cove, and
it was the same code.
yeah, same cove. Blake yells out a yell. Well, just right on top of the hill, we were sitting like 20 foot off the bank, right on top of the hill above us. This thing screams out, "Dude, I'm telling you what." As Blake put it, I didn't know whether to jump in the water, walk on water, or
Yeah,
what.
Ricky was fight or flight mode. He was going somewhere, just don't know where he was going.
Dude,
But yeah,
that
we've had a lot. I mean, just that's just two of like the most memorable responses that we've gotten. But yes, I mean especially you when we first really got heavy into research. Um, there are reasons we got into research. We were actually just kind of give you why. I mean, a lot of people have heard the story on this show, but I'll kind of just give you a backstory. Um, so basically, there's a cemetery about 30 minutes from our house, 45 minutes or so from where we actually live. We started going down to the cemetery, just paranormal investigating. And we went down there for a while before anything actually ever happened at this area. Basically, me and Ricky were down there one night. We'd been out in the cemetery, and we had something howl. And Ricky used to be taxidermist. me and him both have hunted our, we're in the South. We hunt. We're in the woods a lot, growing up and everything. So
So
we,
y'all hunt too?
we know what's in the woods. We
Oh
know
yeah.
what makes sounds. We know what they sound like. And this is something me and Ricky had never heard before. At that point, we didn't know what it was. We didn't really, we just got out there. It was more or less just fight or flight mode. Let's get the heck out of here, and didn't really talk about it or anything. And a couple weeks went by. We'd been down there a couple more times, and I don't know what made me do it. I just somehow come across. I don't remember. This was back in 2011 or 2010, 2011. I think it was 2011, and I'd come across some howls on YouTube, some Bigfoot howls, the seer sounds, and some other stuff, and like 3 or 4 of them sounded just identical to what we had heard. And they, at that point, that was like I started looking into the area where we were at, where all this happened. Well, this area has quite a few that neither nor Ricky or I knew about. Bigfoot reports. Not a whole lot, but they were in the area. They had pinned people that experienced things and seen a couple down there. And that's, from that point on, we kind of just started going down there and just winging it. We started trying howls and we're getting responses, and wood knocks and got responses, and it just, that furthered our research in the area.
So, has there been anyone else that has tried that same thing with knocks and howls in your guys' area?
So we took people down there with us over a period of time. We've had probably 10 to 15 people down there with us over the main time we did a lot of research in the area. So a lot of people did experience these things with us. Well, pretty much everybody we took down there had something happen down there with us. But we kept the place secret for a long time. My report's actually on the BFRO. But the BFRO kept the location secret for a long time. Now you can actually go on the BFR and they revealed the location. But as far as we know, they ain't nobody else doing research down there. I don't know if they do now, but back in the time when all this was going on, they may have been in the general area, but not where we were at.
It wasn't just yells and wood knocks that we got down there. We've actually had rocks thrown at us. We were down there one night, and this thing threw rocks from about it's probably 60 yards from the wood line over to where we were standing under this big tree, and they were rocks that probably the size of a basketball come through the treetops and landed at our feet. And I look around, and Blake's dad was down there with us that night. I look around, he's way down at the lower end of the cemetery. So I run down there where he's at, and I asked him, I said, what in the world you run off and leave me for? He said, man, there's someone up there throwing rocks size of basketballs at us. He said, I wasn't sticking around up there. So, yeah, that's some of the stuff that we've encountered. My first sighting that I had was back in 1981 on a creek about.
Wow, that is a long time ago.
Right, and that was over on Talking Rock Creek, about 25, 30 miles west of here. We were float fishing the creek, came across a waterfall, down this bend to the right in the creek, and there was this sandbar that came out there where Little Skeercorn Creek run in at, and this thing was standing crouched over. I thought it was a bear when I first saw it, but when it raised up, like I said, we were in a raft, but when this thing raised up, it was probably 40 yards from us. I had never seen anything like it, other than Patty, of course, on the Patterson Gimlin film back in '67. But from that moment on, I've been a true believer, and I've been a Bigfoot and paranormal investigator.
Yeah. Actually, the location that he's talking about, or we were just talking about, actually, that's where I had my personal sighting at. I actually saw a family in the area down there.
Of a family of Bigfoot, or a
family of Bigfoot. A juvenile, a male, and a female.
Whenever I've seen them, it's only been like one or two. Like it's like a solo or I think what was it that seemed no I've only seen it like just an individual, and I haven't seen a full group together, but then again, I do need to get more research out because I've only had a few encounters. But man, you know,
It's very rare that like I've been doing like we've been myself. I mean, Ricky's been doing it longer than I have, but I mean, I've been into Bigfoot ever since then. So 2011. I mean, I've had encounters at other places, as far as like you know howls and whatnot, but I've only ever had one visual encounter. I mean, and I've spent a lot of times in the woods.
On my channel, I have footage of one night when something weird happened around my house. There's like weird noises or something, and the moment I walked out to my backyard, everything stopped. Like it was dead silent. And I don't know if it was Bigfoot or just some other cryptids, but some nights around my house it gets very silent, and then there's other nights when it's like loud. So it makes me wonder if they move locations from time to time, or kind of like nomads if they're just going around.
Right. Now, there's something that I've always believed, that they are nomadic. They do move with the changing of the seasons. Also, with the uh, depending on food source in an area. Um, our food source around this area is they have an abundance of deer to feed on, squirrels, raccoons, possums, things of that nature. Of course, springtime, we have a lot of berries in this area, a lot of roots. I've actually found spots where they've actually dug roots out of the ground and eat them. So it's
Hey Ricky, not
yeah.
to interrupt, but we got a comment that I'm kind of curious here. Um, Vicky, she said my area where I live, Carter's Lake area, LJ Jasper. Um, if you're still watching, do you know of any encounters over in that area? If you don't mind, post down in the comments.
They
Please do, Vicky.
they should still be there, hopefully.
Yeah, because
one of my
we're close. Sorry, buddy. Vicky, if you're watching, we're not far from you. We live in Calhoun, Georgia. Um, the area where I had my personal sighting in the lake we were just talking about was Alatoona Lake. There's not a whole lot of information. I mean, as far as the area down there at Alatoona, if you look it up, I mean, they are reports. But we've always been curious about the Carter's Lake area. I've never personally had no. Well, I mean, Ricky knows a couple of people that's had a few things happen over there, but they're not like a whole lot of published information or anything like that. So if there's anything you can share with us, please message Ricky or put it down in the chat.
Right. Let me put our email up here.
One of the scariest encounters I've ever had. Did I tell you guys my Dire Lane story?
No.
Okay, so it was this year, and my friends and I we went down to Dire Lane, and we're just like, let's go investigate Dire Lane, and because it's definitely been a thing on my bucket list, and it's one of the most haunted roads in our area, and it's known for the KKK murders, and there's even a police car too that is ghostly, and supposedly rumors run around saying that they oftentimes will see a ghost car replicating the event that took place, and so when we went there to investigate, we started walking like maybe a mile down the road from the car, and you know, I had this feeling of seeing figures, and I don't know if I was fatigued or not, or tired, because when you're tired, you can see a lot and procrastinate. But uh, we got the EMF reader out, we got some readings, and I have that footage on my YouTube channel too, so it's there. But when we got to like this one point where it started becoming very weird, and I had that gut feeling that something bad was gonna happen, and I started looking around to see the area that we're in, and we noticed like kind of like a clicking sound, and we told my friend, we said, hey, turn off the light really quick. And right when I said turn off the light really quick, we heard a gunshot, and we booked it out of there. And that was probably one of my scariest investigations yet. And honestly, that is why you shouldn't investigate alone in any paranormal topic.
Oh, that's one thing. Yes, I most definitely believe that. As far as doing your research and all, you don't want to go out in the forest and try to do research for yourself. There's too much things out there, too much danger that you can actually get yourself into.
I'm
Yeah,
not even
and
making a comment. I mean, like when I'm in the woods, it's one thing, but as far as like if I'm paranormal investigating, I like being alone. That's just, I mean, like
I mean, if you're
probably
experienced,
shouldn't
it's
do it.
fine, because you've probably had many more years than I've had. So, like, for me though, it is probably safe to say for like people that maybe have had a few years, maybe be a little bit careful. But of course, if you've been doing it for like way longer than a few years, I'd say definitely go for it full send it. I have been planning a solo investigation on a local trail that nobody knows about in my area except pretty much my family, and it's quite an obvious trail too. But I do plan on researching that trail because last time I was on that trail, uh, my aunt and I, we heard something stomping around, but we didn't know what it was. But we couldn't see it, which was weird. It was like something giant, invisible, but it was stomping around, and so I got to go back into that forest at some point and do a bigger investigation on that.
Well, guys, my opinion as far as doing Sasquatch research, the best thing that a researcher can learn about these creatures is their habits. Uh, get to know what actually when you can tell these creatures are actually uh, don't want you in an area, the vibes that they give off, the rock throwing, stick throwing, the screams, the bluff charges. Uh, this is telling you that you're in their area and they don't want you there. And if you persist with an investigation and this going on, you know you're taking your own life in your own hands.
Yeah, and kind of going off on that, if something doesn't feel right,
Yeah, gut
and
instinct.
but by all means, then get out of there. But if it's paranormal, but it feels safe, then go for it. But don't do
Yeah,
something too stupid.
always listen to your instincts.
And I think you two both definitely have more years of understanding your instincts than I have, because
Oh yeah, Ricky knows all about me and my instincts. Like I didn't used to be brave like I am now. Like I mean, I shouldn't say brave, but like Some
motivated.
went down when I mean, like, used to, like, I would get freaked out pretty easily. Like, I mean, we hear a howl, like, at the beginning, the first couple times I heard a howl, like, I was ready to go. Like, like, I didn't want to be there. Like, that's enough. That, I'm taking that as my warning. I'm leaving. And even with the paranormal, like, I was always fine as long as I had somebody with me type situation, but never alone. But just over, a 10-year period of doing it, almost 11 years, one, I shouldn't say you don't get scared like you used to, but, like, as far as, still in the woods, I like to be with somebody else. Like, I think that's the smartest thing that, don't be dumb. I mean, be safe. But as far as paranormal side, if I'm in a house or if I'm going somewhere and it doesn't bother me to be by myself now, like, as far as that aspect goes. I've had so much happen to me as far as paranormal goes, like, it don't really scare me now. I mean, still get creeped out, don't get me wrong. Like, that feeling, we were just talking about, you still get that feeling, but it doesn't freak you out like it used to.
Well, one question I have for you, Blake, and Rick, you can feel free to answer this as well. But Blake, when you first went out, on your first solo, do you think that they were maybe howling because maybe they didn't know much about who you were and what your intentions were, and maybe that's kind of why they gave you that warning sign of like, hey, keep some distance from me, and we'll have those respective boundaries.
That's really a question, because you don't know for sure other than just speculation. I mean, I don't know why they howl. I mean, could it be, like you said there, letting others know that you're in the area, letting you know that, hey, I'm here, or stay where you're at type warning? I mean, I don't really know the intentions of the howl. I mean, unfortunately, we don't know why they communicate the way they do, why they do the things they do. I mean, all it is theories. That's the best way I can explain that because I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I think that's maybe another thing that maybe I can investigate because, yeah, I've not done a solo investigation yet, so maybe I can go out to the local forest that no one really knows about, so there'd be no one that would know where that trail is except, me and my dad probably. He was the one that told me about the trail, so there's like nobody else other than us two who know about that trail. But maybe I could investigate and hopefully have a safe investigation and see really why they get irritated when there's someone new that goes out there that maybe something that's irritative, or maybe it's just the caution that they have, or the skill level. So maybe I'll do an investigation on that, and maybe we'll find an answer.
Well, that's the best thing you do. The more you can be out in the field, the more answers you're going to get.
And if any of Rick's viewers do have a conclusion to that question, though, please let us know, or me as well. I'll definitely love to figure that out too, because that's honestly that's the first time I've ever thought of that, honestly.
Well, I think it's one of those questions, though, like I said, it can't truly be answered. Because, I mean, we have no experts in the Bigfoot world. We have people call themselves experts.
We have you guys. No, I'm done.
But you can't have an expert.
I'm far from being an expert on it, and I'll be the first to admit it.
You can have primatologists and stuff like that, or that are expert in certain fields, but when it actually comes to saying, "Oh, I'm a Bigfoot expert," you have figured some things out maybe, and you might have a few answers for certain things, but that's still your answers. All because it's your answers doesn't mean they're the correct answers.
Yeah. And kind of going off topic, but not really off topic. UCLA opened up a extraterrestrial class on UFO research, and so maybe there might be a chance for us to, get a degree in our favorite topic. I mean, even though we can, do this for free, pretty much. It literally doesn't cost any money whatsoever. But I think that, it's so cool that it's finally becoming an opportunity where it can be a degree too. And maybe, hopefully, in the future, we'll see a Bigfoot degree as well. At least that's what I'm hoping for. That would be such a cool thing to get a degree in, where you can actually be, a master at that level, where you finally have the proven knowledge, and people can recognize you for it. And I think that's something cool that, they're at least doing for the extraterrestrial world. But I'm not sure if you guys knew about that, but I just wanted to mention that in case you guys
I did
haven't
not,
heard that.
but that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to be taking one of their classes too, because I'm friends with the assistant of that program, so I'm going to be taking
Good
that.
opportunity. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm like, I don't need to take 4 years of it, but just a class would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Get a certificate or whatever.
And it may be something that you like too.
Definitely. And when I know in Florida and maybe other places in the world they do Bigfoot conferences. They hold conference classes.
Yeah,
And
we're not too far from Gatlinburg, which they have a conference there every year. Then there are a few places in Tennessee, in other parts of Tennessee that have conferences.
yeah, I was gonna go to a Florida conference, but the day that it was hosted was the day that I was leaving, so that was kind of bad timing on my end. But there'll be an opportunity in the future, and I'm hoping that at least in my area, maybe I can get to one easier than that on the East Coast.
Well, I mean, Washington State, I'm sure they have a lot of conferences.
Oh, definitely. Washington is honestly, I think the first video I've ever watched on Bigfoot before I actually really dug into the topic of Bigfoot was it was some sort of I think it was Finding Bigfoot. Not that I agree or disagree with their TV show and how they display things, but
It's a TV show.
It's a TV show.
But just like your paranormal TV shows, they're TV shows.
Yeah, and it was really interesting that they had, I think it was firefighters got involved with the research or something on some episode in Washington. And it's kind of interesting that you brought up Washington because, I feel like there'd be definitely a lot of sightings there because it's, it's these government.
Washington State's one of the, it's one of the biggest hot spots here in the United States. I mean,
for government purposes.
Yeah. And where we live, as far as Bigfoot goes, we live in a very Bigfoot oriented hotspot. Here in the South, Florida's real big for skunk ape sightings and stuff, but where we live here in North Georgia, the Blue Ridge area is, there's more reports that come out of that area than, I'd say probably 60-70% of the United States.
That is, I'll definitely have to look into that. Is there anything else that you guys want to cover or that we haven't covered?
No, I think let's see, we're a little over an hour now. It's normally about the time we run our show. We really want to thank you, Scott, for being on with us tonight.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you guys for having me. I do appreciate it, and to you viewers for your time as well.
Hey, anytime in the future, Scott, that you want to come back on, man, just hit me up on Messenger, and
hey, you do the same.
To have you back on and discuss some more of your research with us.
You do the same. And Blake, hopefully you'll be there too.
Definitely.
Yep, and I just want to say thank you guys so much once again for your time, for inviting me to the podcast as well. Sorry I'm a little bit tired, but I've had a long day. I spend my mornings working out and then go on with the rest of the day. But earlier today I had a podcast too that I was on. So,
Well, Scott, we really appreciate your time, buddy. Thank you for being on the show. Blake, you want to close things out, bud?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. And
thank you so much.
No, thank you. And as always, guys, thank you for your support. If you don't mind, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and comment. Go show Scott some love. What was your channel name again?
Paranormal Awakening. And I will definitely tell my followers to go to you guys as well. And Rick, you post in my group as well, so hopefully my viewers will have seen that. And I sent one of my friends the link to your channel too. So thank you guys once again so much for having me, and to the viewers as well. Thank you. And guys, if you're watching, subscribe to them because they're amazing. And I'm looking forward to. Hey, I'm looking forward to watching some of your videos. I'll go through and watch them on my free time.
Hey, bud, anytime you have any questions, if we can answer them for you, just hit me up, and I'll do my best to give you an answer. If I can't, we'll get a hold of Blake, and he can.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem, man. Everybody, God bless, and good night.